Have you seen the new accessory of the summer? I'll give you a hint. It's not shoes, it's not clothes, it's not sunglasses. That's right. The accessory of the summer is weighted vests. Have you noticed everybody seems to be wearing a weighted vest these days? Whether it's around my neighborhood, on walking trails, or even at the grocery store, I feel like everybody is wearing weighted vests. The question is, are they actually worth the hype? So thankfully, we had a listener reach out asking that exact question.
Hey Doc, quick question. Does wearing a weighted vest while walking really help burn more calories?
So that's what we're going to look into today. We're going to talk about weighted vests. We're going to talk about if they actually burn more calories, but also do they improve your health? Do they have any additional benefits? Do they have any possible risks? I'm super excited to answer this question today. I'm Dr. Jeremy Alland, board-certified sports medicine physician and team physician for the Chicago Bulls, and welcome to another episode of Hey Doc, Quick Question, the podcast that answers real health questions from real listeners. We'll be back to answer that question right after this short break. Okay, so our listener specifically asked, do weighted vests lead to burning more calories? And the direct answer to this question is yes, you burn more calories walking with a weighted vest. When wearing a weighted vest, there have been studies that have clearly shown that there are increases in oxygen consumption, heart rate, and energy expenditure. So for example, if you're going to do a 30-minute walk wearing a 10-pound vest, you can increase your calorie consumption or your calorie burn by 8 to 15% approximately. Now, obviously, this depends on speed, incline, body weight, exertion, so on and so forth. But you get the idea. If you're wearing a weighted vest, you can burn more calories. Now, the good news here is that studies have actually shown that if you're wearing a properly fitted weighted vest, you actually don't see much change in gait mechanics or increased injury risk in healthy people doing this. So if your goal is to increase the amount of calories burned on your walk, a weighted vest may not be a bad idea. But does it do anything else? One of the areas that I've seen all over social media regarding weighted vests has been about bone health. Osteoporosis and women's health has been a big topic, and it's fantastic that we're talking about it. The people I see wearing these the most around my neighborhood are women. And when it comes to bone health, it has been shown that wearing a weighted vest increases ground reaction forces, meaning that you're going to feel more reverberation of the ground through your bones, and we know that more impact through the bones does increase bone density. The American College of Sports Medicine notes that when compared to regular walking without a weighted vest, there have been short-term improvements in bone mineral density in postmenopausal women. So there can be an improvement. The problem is that there's very little study to know what the long-term effects are. And certainly this is all going to depend on intensity and duration. There's so much variability. Take home with bone health is it may help short-term, maybe it helps long-term. So as long as you're staying away from the risks that we'll talk about in a little bit, I think it could be a reasonable addition to regular osteoporosis and osteopenia treatment to see if you can improve your bone density. In addition, for people who are worried about having osteoporosis and osteopenia in the future, we're not sure if it's going to prevent, but certainly it would qualify as that impact exercise that we know is beneficial, and therefore I think it is reasonable. Now, how about strength and function? I've seen a lot on social media and heard from a lot of people that wearing my weighted vest would count as strength training because I'm increasing the amount of weight on my legs as I'm moving. Unfortunately, this really hasn't panned out in the research. Most of the research on this has not really shown that you increase your amount of muscle mass or strength by wearing a weighted vest. So from my perspective at this point, wearing a weighted vest does not replace your 2 days a week of weight training that you're supposed to be doing to maintain muscle mass and strength as you get older. One area that I thought was cool when I was doing my research was actually on neuromuscular benefits, and we'll talk about neuromuscular training a lot on this podcast and on my social media, but neuromuscular more or less means how your brain talks to your muscles and allows them to function. They communicate with each other, allowing you to do many things like me moving my hands right now and not really thinking about it. Neuromuscular reaction decreases as we age. Think about people having worse balance or difficulty turning or changing directions as they get older. When looking at wearing a weighted vest in specific populations who have neuromuscular issues such as multiple sclerosis, there has been an improvement in stride length and cadence, meaning that their gait improves by wearing these weighted vests. So maybe as the research continues, we'll find that by wearing a weighted vest, you'll be able to improve your walking or maintain your walking better into older age. So let's talk a little bit about the risks, because it seems like there are potential benefits, but what are the downsides? I think the most obvious one is the load on our spine and overall on our posture. You need to make sure you're buying a reputable, well-fitting vest. The same way that we focus on kids having backpacks that are snug against their back and not making them tip forward or backward, we need to make sure that our weighted vest fits snugly It feels like it has an equal amount of weight in the front and the back, and it allows us to have a normal gait. A poor fit or something that has far too heavy of weight for what you're ready for can alter posture and alter gait mechanics and ultimately lead to increased stress and possible injury. In addition, having increased amount of weight while you walk is going to increase the amount of load on your joints. And if you're somebody who has pre-existing joint issues or your ankles, knees, and hips are not strong enough to maintain that weight, you may notice that you fatigue faster, you have increased amounts of soreness or pain, and ultimately can lead to overuse injuries easier. Another thing to consider, especially this summer, which has been incredibly hot, is that most of these vests are black, and that if they don't have breathable material, you will see an increase in body temperature a lot faster than if you were not wearing a weighted vest. You're also going to have an increased amount of heart rate and exertion, and therefore your risk of heat illness will go up by wearing a weighted vest. So make sure that you're doing what you can to wear breathable material, find shade when you can, stay hydrated, and maybe avoid wearing the weighted vest on the hottest, most humid days, or make sure you're adapting to them with shorter distances so that your body is ready to take on that heat. And finally, for people who want to throw these on grandma and grandpa and help them walk better, just be careful that you're putting weights on somebody who may not have the best balance or is not ready to be wearing a weighted vest. And you don't want to do this all at once because fall risk is real. And if they lose their balance and have additional amount of weight on them, the chances of them catching that fall goes way down. So we don't want to have any broken hips, broken bones because somebody was wearing weight that they were not ready for. So start low, gradually increase. Maybe start with regular walking without a weight vest if grandma and grandpa have not been doing a lot of walking recently. So in summary, it seems like weighted vests do have benefits. They seem to be good for people looking to increase the intensity of their walks or hikes, individuals training for endurance or load-bearing tasks, or athletes or patients in a structured rehab setting where they're trying to come back from a specific injury or they have a specific disease that would benefit from having a weighted vest. I would exercise caution if you have joint or back pain pre-existing. You want to make sure that you start at a very low weight, if not no weight, and then gradually increase the amount of weight you put in the weighted vest so that you're giving your body time to adapt. The vest may come with a max weight, but that doesn't mean the weight you're supposed to start with. And the best vests are going to be the ones that you can adjust the weights down lower and then gradually increase that amount higher. Finally, as we already talked about, I definitely exercise caution in hot or humid environments as your risk of heat illness will definitely go up. If you are looking at buying a weighted vest, reputable brands will market a good fit that is snug and has proper posture, and I would recommend starting around 5 to 10% of your body weight. If I could prioritize anything, it's going to be how you can maintain your posture and gait mechanics, and if you're concerned, get the weighted vest and meet with someone like a physical therapist or a sports medicine physician who can set you up with a gait analysis to make sure that there haven't been a lot of changes when you're wearing that weighted vest. And one little plug, you'll be able to do better with your weighted vest if you're doing your usual recommended twice a week weightlifting. So make sure you're getting in that weightlifting that we talk about on almost every social media post and every podcast episode. Weightlifting keeps us healthy and allows us to do the activities we want to do as we get older. I want to thank our listener for sending us another great question. To directly answer your question again, yes, it does burn more calories, and this new accessory of the summer does seem to have some benefits with pretty low risks. If you want to have your question answered on the next podcast, go to hey.quickquestion.com. You'll see the button there and you can send me the voicemail. This podcast is fed by your questions. And if you could do me a quick favor, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, whether you're on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. This will make sure that I show up every single week with these questions in your feed. And if you haven't shared this with a friend of yours who's constantly Googling health questions or is bringing you the latest and greatest from social media when it comes to health, please send it their way and let them know, hey, in 7 to 10 minutes, Dr. Alland will take care of you. Once again, I'm Dr. Jeremy Alland. This is Hey Doc Quick Question, and I'll see you next time. Hey, you made it to the end. Great. Now the legal stuff. This podcast is for educational purposes only. It's not medical advice, and listening doesn't make me your doctor. I mean, I like you, but we don't have that kind of relationship. So please, don't use this podcast to diagnose yourself or to treat other people. Always talk to your actual doctor or healthcare provider when it comes to your health. Neither I, Dr. Jeremy Alland, any guests, nor Hey Doc Quick Question LLC can be held liable for anything you do or don't do based on what you heard here. In short, this is information, not a prescription. Be smart, stay curious, and talk to your doc. Oh, and hey, send me your questions.